think anybody should be surprised that your data is being sold. Your data is being sold by data brokers to third parties, things like Facebook, Google, etc. Now, it's actually getting worse now because here you have an imminent decision to scrap Roe v. Wade. Now, this data that is being sold by specific data brokers, well, has data that can impact anyone who has gotten an abortion. So now Vice had a report on Tuesday that a location data firm called SafeGraph was selling information related to visits to clinics that provide abortions, including Planned Parenthood. The data shows where groups of people visiting locations came from and how long they stayed there and where they then went afterwards. This is according to sets of data purchased by Motherboard. Vice had also purchased a week's worth of location data for more than 600 Planned Parenthood locations across the United States for just over $160. So basically, you can buy tracking data for people who have, been to a Planned Parenthood or basically any place. Now, it's not just news outlets that are buying this information. It's not just social media outlets buying this information, but it also can be governments that are buying this information. And so that's going to tie in to now the imminent scrapping of Roe v. Wade. Now, there's an amazing Twitter thread by Elizabeth McLaughlin that really kind of spells out this danger. Now, here's what she writes. She says, if you are using an online period tracker or tracking your menstrual cycles through your phone, get off of it and delete your data now. If you think that your data showing when you last menstruated isn't of interest to those who are about to outlaw abortion, do I have a wake-up call for you? Combine this with location tracking information, when you last menstruated, and where you are seeking health care, and you have a target on your back. She then goes on to cite a New York Times article from last year. Doesn't have anything to do with really abortion, but this article talks about, this app or these apps that will show the time of the month, when that had happened, how long it lasts, and how that data is being collected and sold to different social media companies. One such company, Flow, who collected this data, had promised not to share it. Oh no, we're not going to share that data. Now that, of course, ended up not being true. From 2016 to 2019, the company behind Flow passed certain intimate health details of its users on to marketing and analytics companies such as Facebook and Google, according to the FTC. The agency said that Flow's data sharing practices had allowed third-party companies to use personal health information expansively, including for advertising. Now, again, we know that this is happening. We know that they've been using our data. They've been selling our data for years now. Now, of course, it's been revealed that it's actually a little bit worse than that. For example, data on migrants, for example, coming into the country, immigrants being sold to Border Protection, DHS, or I should say not sold, but given to these organizations that will then go in and crack down on migrants. So that's been used for a while for that purpose. Now, it appears to be likely, very possible, to use this against women who will cross state lines from states that have outlawed abortion to states that continue to allow abortion. So now, consumer health apps, by the way, and I know a lot of you have noticed or noted that, hey, why does this not break HIPAA laws? Why do we not have privacy on this that is protected? Well, now, HIPAA specifically covers patient data collected by and shared among doctors, hospitals, and labs, as well as health insurers. Now, these consumer health apps are not required by law to comply with HIPAA. Can't happen. In other words, if you enter data into these consumer apps, if you have it track your cycle, even apps that you have to pay for, well, those are not protected by HIPAA laws, federal safeguards, or any sort of patient privacy. And this is not the only company that has gotten in trouble for sharing this data. In 2019, Privacy International, a nonprofit group in Britain, studied a number of different popular period tracking apps and reported that 2 of them had transmitted sensitive information such as details on users' symptoms and contraceptive use to Facebook and other companies. So, yeah, that's the companies. Now, what is to prevent these companies from reporting this, for example, to the Texas government, which now has, of course, a very draconian abortion ban that has gotten past Roe v. Wade before by relying on people to report these things to the government. So now if you have a bunch of people reporting these apps to the government in Texas, will this, I mean, if the company is located in one of these states, will they have to turn over that data? See, these are very important questions. So now the company SafeGraph, also, who's been sharing this data, has investors like right-wing tech bro Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel just gave, what, $15 million, I think, to J.D. Vance, who just won his election. Now Donald Trump is, well, trying to get some of that Peter Thiel money. But not just Thiel. You also have a former head of Saudi Arabia's intelligence agency. Saudi Arabia, that very large bastion of women's rights and freedoms. Another investor, Orrin Hoffman, had run a company, LiveRamp, that worked with data firm Cambridge Analytica back in 2016. So, yeah, you have a lot of people, a lot of Silicon Valley people who are taking your data and selling it, which could end up, again, in the hands of state governments that are trying to ban abortion or that have banned abortion already. And so that's pretty dangerous, especially now in this age where we no longer will have Roe v. Wade, when it has not been codified into law and will be overturned. Now, that said, to be fair, let's go to SafeGraph, who says that that they have stopped selling this information on visits to abortion clinics. Oh, the company says that the patterns of data of the kind purchased by Vice, which shows how groups of people interact with a given location, is anonymized to protect the privacy of individual visitors. Sure. Now that, of course, not good enough. According to a study published in Nature about privacy, researchers noted that while a simply anonymized data set does not contain names, home addresses, phone numbers, or any sort of obvious identifiers, if individuals' patterns are unique enough, outside information can be used to link data back to an individual. So even these anonymized data sets that were being sold could still be used by people very, very determined. And we know anti-abortion activists are very determined. These are the people that show up and protest outside of Planned Parenthoods. They do sting videos, that allege the sale of body parts. Again, not true. Absolute bullshit. And then, of course, they also, in some cases, do violence against people running abortion clinics. So, now look, this unique data, well, look, generally, people don't get abortions very often. At least the same person doesn't, right? So this unique data, these identifiers, could identify people coming in from Texas or other anti-choice states to go into another state, a blue state, to get reproductive care. That's enough of a unique identifier for people to go, oh, we might be able to unmask these people. In fact, Zach Edwards, cybersecurity researcher, told Vice, quote, "It's bonkers dangerous to have abortion clinics and then let someone buy the census tracts where people are coming from to visit that abortion clinic. He says, this is how you dox someone traveling across state lines for abortions, how you dox clinics providing this service. Now, I think that's very relevant because this is what's going to happen on a much larger scale when you have Roe getting overturned. Edwards also said that safegraph is going to be the weapon of choice for anti-choice radicals attempting to target out-of-state clinics providing medical care. Missouri is also considering a law to make it illegal to aid or abet abortions in other states. So Missouri, if they pass that law, they're going to be very interested in that data, you know, for an abortion clinic that happens to be across their border. They'd love to get their hands on it. They'd love to sit there and track so they can know who to go after. And look, this is not something that is far-fetched. This is data that has already been used. In a 2018 investigation, the New York Times took location data and followed multiple people inside it and even unmasked some of those people. One of them visited a Planned Parenthood facility, according to the report. And by the way, bad actors also got this data. A Christian-focused outlet, or similar data, I should say, The Pillar had published a piece that used location data to track the movements of a specific priest and then outed him publicly as potentially gay. So we're going to use your location data and we're going to forcefully make you come out. Of course, again, coming out is something that is a personal decision. And if you are forced out, especially being part of the Christian church, what do you think that's going to entail? What do you think is going to happen to this person? Not good things. And so this is another example of this data being used maliciously. This is very dangerous stuff. Now, look, again, I've been worried about privacy for some time. Now this is even worse. The Supreme Court is ready to gut privacy for not just women, but trans people, non-binary, etc., anyone with a uterus. And they're not going to stop at abortion. They're going to come after people using contraception, buying contraception, obviously being gay, being LGBTQ, or who knows, maybe they'll even expand it to dating someone of a different race, going to neighborhoods. Oh, I was tracking this person through this app, and they were in a neighborhood that they didn't belong in. Nah, they were in the black neighborhood. What are they doing there? Look, this is what happens when you allow big tech, right, to partner with conservatives who love big government. When you destroy privacy with the help of these big corporations, that ends up leading to pretty bad things. Anybody who's ever uttered the phrase big tech should be outraged by this. I am. But here's the thing. People like Tim Pool, Glenn Greenwald, Steven Crowder, I'm going to bet that they're not going to report on this story. Why? Because, well, they want the government to track people who might be breaking their laws to get reproductive care. They're okay with this. Because again, they're not about being against big tech, and they're not in favor of privacy. They're not not really in favor of, being pro-life. No, the only thing they want to do is they want to protect their power, their privacy, while destroying your privacy and take away your bodily autonomy. At the end of the day, it always comes back to control.